Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. So I have 30 minutes to record a video right now, and I'm just going to talk off the top of my head about a subject that has been bouncing around in my head for the past couple of weeks, and that is this idea of toxic masculinity. I'm pretty sure that some viewers might have just gotten triggered because that term is kind of polarizing, but I think the reason why it has become polarizing is because sometimes the meaning of it gets a little bit misconstrued and therefore misunderstood. So today I just want to give my 2 cents about how I view toxic masculinity. Does it even exist? Is it even a warranted term? Let's talk about that. As usual, your opinions are valued. Feel free to leave them down below. I would love to hear a discussion going. So anyways, let's get right into it. The first thing I want to say about toxic masculinity is that I absolutely think that it exists. Misconception is that all of masculinity is toxic, and I think that that's the reason why this term kind of doesn't sit well with people sometimes. I absolutely don't think that all of masculinity is toxic. Masculinity is awesome, and I think that a lot of women would be happy to see more healthy masculinity in the world. But the parts of masculinity that are toxic, if we go back to the visual of yin and yang, yang being the masculine force, yin being the feminine force. The toxic parts of yang, for example, when somebody has excess yang energy, it's when somebody has a lot of masculinity that manifests in a negative way. So that's when a person can be domineering, that's when they can be aggressive, that's when a guy can be very hard-headed and difficult to compromise with. On the other hand, a man can also have insufficient yang energy, so that is a guy who might be withdrawn, overcome with fear, not confident to go out and have a social life or grow more as a person. He's not feeling motivated. I would say that this lack of yang energy probably contributed to the loneliness epidemic that we're seeing among men right now. So hopefully now we have established that masculinity is not at all negative. It's just that when there is too much yang or insufficient yang, that men can fall into toxic patterns. Let's move on to some of the narratives that I think that men are programmed into believing, whether it be from a young age, whether it be from adolescence, that don't always have the most positive impacts and how they affect women. This is just my 2 cents as per all my videos, so let's explore these ideas further. The first idea is that I've seen this being pushed around on the internet in recent years, but it's this idea that if a man shows vulnerability, especially in front of a woman, then the woman is never going to see him the same, and she's never going to be attracted to him, and that's it. It's game over for your romantic life. My perspective as a woman is that actually, this is quite a misleading narrative because, first of all, in terms of the man's mental health, I think it is important for men to be a little bit more open to showing their feelings and processing their feelings in a productive way. Otherwise, we wouldn't have so many of male suicides. We wouldn't have the male loneliness epidemic if men kind of tried to process their emotions a bit better instead of bottling them in and then exploding, or bottling them in and then taking it out on themselves and it manifesting in mental health problems. But the other thing is that the reason why it's misleading to say that a woman will see you differently and she will look down on you if you show your vulnerabilities is because oftentimes women crave emotional intimacy. It can obviously be an emotionally intimate moment to share feelings with a woman. And for her, it's actually going to be a big compliment that a man feels that she can be trusted with this kind of information and she can be trusted with him being vulnerable, because to the rest of the world, he's closed off. Jordan Peterson talks about how women want this monster who they can humanize. So what that is implying is that women appreciate when a man is kind of a little bit harder to the rest of the world. I'm not saying aggressive or a bully, but with her, he's this a little bit more soft and open persona. What I'm trying to say is that don't be super terrified of being a little bit open and vulnerable with your lady, because she can actually really appreciate that, and it will activate her natural nurturing instinct, which will actually draw her closer to you and improve your relationship. Furthermore, I would also say that we probably shouldn't be treating our partners like our therapists and just dumping all our traumas on them. But if something is truly bothering one or the other partner, if emotionally they're really feeling horrible inside, I think it's a healthy dynamic in a relationship to be able to approach your partner and just explain to them how you're feeling and for them to listen and not judge. So that concludes the first point. The next point that I'll talk about is this misleading narrative that it is attractive to be a player, and if you're a player, then all the ladies are gonna like that, and that is something to be proud of. My perception is that players, while they can be men who are, I guess, entertaining to be around at times, they can be charming, I don't think that all women are going to see players as a safe bet for long-term relationships. The reason why women who want to protect their energy don't want to get with players is because players kind of signal emotional danger. They can signal some psychological danger and maybe even physical danger if he, is more likely to catch an STD and pass it on to a woman. This is just an example. My point here is that it's not always a flex to be a player. If that's your thing, then by all means go ahead, but not all women are going to take you necessarily seriously or see you as boyfriend or husband material. So that's something to keep in mind. And also, I've heard men talk about how at the end of the day, being a player was not actually fulfilling as they thought that it would be. Maybe for some time they had fun doing somersaults in the sheets with everyone, but at the end of the day they realized, oh, actually this is totally empty and I feel nothing. Even if you're a man and you think that you can emotionally or psychologically handle that, it might not be the best decision for your psyche or for your future prospects of dating. Next point is just going to be a really kind of blatant one, and that is the perception of, I guess, human relations in pornography these days. I'm not gonna make this a video discussing the morality and ethics around pornography, but I do think that there is something to be said about the fact that pornography kind of acts as a demotivating tool for a lot of men. If men can get those kind of sexual urges met over the click of a couple of buttons, then they might not be as motivated to make themselves better men in real life and attract a real mate. So that's just something to think about. If you're struggling with your motivation, perhaps it can be because pornography is impacting your brain and your motivational reward system. Yeah, your reward system. The other thing is, if you're a guy who just kind of watches that stuff with no second thoughts, I would encourage you, if it at all interests you, to look into the process of how pornography is made, because truthfully it is an industry that is plagued with a lot of I would say darkness and human suffering. So you might not even know exactly what you're watching. You might not know that you could be watching something that is not consensual or something that involves people who are underage, or even if there is actual pleasure going on in this scene, or if there is something that is much darker going on in the scene. The other thing that I will say, having seen girls whose boyfriends have been, addicted to porn, it can be definitely a very unpleasant experience for your girlfriend to find out about this addiction. And so maybe just consider that. How is it impacting not only you, but also other people in your life? That is the point about pornography, and hopefully that was some food for thought for you to consider. The next point is probably a little bit controversial, I guess, but I'm just gonna say my thoughts about this anyway. So sometimes, I guess, in line with this notion of toxic masculinity, men could get the impression that all of violence is immediately negative, because violence tends to be more of a male expression of aggression rather than a woman expression of aggression. I think that while violence is not always the solution, of course, it is important, especially for men, to have a healthy relationship with violence. The onus of being a little bit more emotionally composed does fall on men, simply because men have a much higher degree of destruction that they can inflict on their surroundings compared to women when it comes to the physical the physical realm. With that being said, I do think that learning how to fight, learning how to direct your violent abilities in a healthy means is important, and it's important for men to know how to access that part of them if they ever need to use it. That's why I think that martial arts are a great outlet for that, or anything else that's related to fighting, any other kind of form of fighting. I'm not a freaking fighting professional here, but it will not only help you to develop in that healthy masculine energy, as I've talked about before, but it's also gonna kind of develop a more positive relationship with your physical abilities, which is also good and important. An alternative to this would be any other type of sport, but here we're specifically talking about violence and how to control it, so that's why I'm using the example of fighting or MMA. I also think, just as a side note, it's important for women to know how to defend themselves as well. Learning how to throw a punch, learning how to at least defend yourself in a dire situation is a good survival skill in general. So if you're a woman watching, I would also encourage you to sign up for a self-defense class or take some classes in boxing or in Muay Thai or something, just to improve your physical confidence and be able to at least have a little bit of skills to defend yourself if you need to use it. And now the last point that I'm going to make is going to be about, judging women on their physical appearance and thinking that that is going to give you some kind of accurate assessment of who she is as a person. On the internet, there's a lot of stereotypes about how women look and what that says about their character. While I do think that how somebody presents themselves and their physical appearance can say something about their values and perhaps about how they think, at the end of the day, I think that it is more important to judge somebody based on their character rather than on their superficial features. So while it is okay to have preferences in terms of what you like physically, it is going to be probably more productive to try to get to know somebody and keep your mind open. You know, maybe just because they have some of these physical features that you don't like, they can actually be a really great person, and you'll find that over time, those features won't matter as much, and you will maybe even grow to like them as you get to know the person's personality. That is all that I will say in this video. I think that covers everything I wanted to talk about. If you liked it, if you got any value out of it, feel free to drop a like. I hope it wasn't too rushed. I will see you guys in my next video. Have a good rest of the day and talk to you later. Bye.